Okay, so we're back and we're talking about sexuality and the opposition of gay marriage. And I think the one important factor is the religious aspect. And this goes for a lot of religious groups, Islam, Judaism. We're going to focus, well, right now on Christianity because that's like really the most common, well, it seems to be the most common in new religion in this country. So I figure that might be, you know, best place to start. Okay, in Genesis in the Old Testament, King James, it says, it commands that one not lie with mankind as with womankind. In Levitic, and by the way, this is chapter 19, verse 4 to chapter 19, verse 11. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22 says that those who do shall be put to death, those who sleep with mankind as with womankind. So that's the Old Testament. And the New Testament, Romans 1, passages about people going against natural use and lust, as well as they're going to suffer the same fate as Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes. So pretty much, yeah.
I just want to add to that. I love how they literally continued their argument from two separate parts of the Bible.
Well, first of all, you got to explain what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, Sodom and Gomorrah was a very, it's like New Orleans back in the days, wild place. And they were going to be punished, and God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
So they fear that if society approves gay marriage, that God will punish society and destroy us. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. Which, yeah.
And I love the arguments from Genesis and Leviticus, how they somehow combine one part of the Bible and another part from another part of the Bible, then made the two make sense. Because when you look at it, it says, one shall not lie with mankind as with womankind in Genesis, and then they follow that statement up by trying to continue it by saying, and then the Leviticus says that, and those who do shall be put to death. How do you know they're talking about the same thing? It's not even the same story.
Right. So that's pretty much, and it doesn't really work because I mean you don't have really scientific evidence to back this up. Right? So you can't really just use. I mean that goes under religion. Religion is separate. Church is separate from state. So you can't make
If
a
you want to
law
fear
legal.
the things you read in the Bible, I'm afraid of a flood more than I am of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Because there are gay people all over the world, and they've approved same-sex marriages in other places in this world, and they have not gone up in flames.
So that doesn't really work. It doesn't really fly biblical reasoning. No. Okay, so.
Want me to cover
the civil unions.
I'm going to cover the other ones. I just wanted to add to the Christian note that in Manhattan there's a Christian group, and they have a lot of different Christian leaders from different denominations, and they started a little declaration, and in this declaration they're signing to show that they are against abortions and gay marriage, and they have gotten over 475,000 people to sign this declaration in Manhattan. It's called the Manhattan Declaration, I believe. Now, I find this to be very shocking that almost 500,000 people signed a document about gay marriage and abortion, and no one has anything to say about domestic violence, uh, inner city crime, poor people, hungry people, but they got 500,000 people to sign a piece of paper to say that two people who love each other can't get married. That's too much. You're doing too much. Sit down. You can't find another platform to stand on. You can't find some other thing to support. There's so many things going on in New York City, and the only thing you seem to have on your mind is who's marrying who. You're doing too much.
One thing you have to understand, you have to understand the mentality, I guess, of people who believe this. They believe that their way is right, and that God, that this is what God wants. If God wants it, that's it. That's fine. That's the first priority. So that's really the mentality behind it.
That's cool. I'm not saying not, but I'm saying if you're gonna use God as your crutch to have something to say, then go and use God as a crutch full circle. Don't just use God as a crutch to hurt people, to be a bigot, to be disrespectful, to just cause chaos. Why don't you use your faith in God to do good things as well? Why can't you find 500,000 people to feed somebody?
Yeah, it's true.
Why can't you find 500,000 people to help these battered women find safe havens? Why can't you find 500,000 people to help these kids pass these stupid state exams? Do that instead. That would be more beneficial than you stopping people from getting married. Because if they get married, they're not causing harm to anybody. That would make more sense. Don't use God as a crutch to do things that aren't Christian-like.
Yeah, I mean, in case you
That's not.
haven't realized this, we're both in favor of gay marriage. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm taking
we're rooting for you.
definitive stance. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah,
I'll be
gotcha
there.
that.
We'll all be there.
Yeah.
Well, they're not the only religion, Christianity, of course. Islam, they do not support gay marriage.
And I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, there was a time where I felt the same way as as a lot of these religious groups do, because that's what I was, told to believe and things like that. But now, once you step away from that and think for yourself, um,
Now,
you begin to realize what you feel is right and what you feel is wrong. So that's why
right.
I'm here.
Now, from a religious standpoint, I can agree with the Nation of Islam. I can agree with their not being for gay marriage because their religion has actually defined what marriage is within their religion. And that is a marriage where it provides protection, security, and reproduction. And if you are in a same-sex marriage, you cannot produce children. It's not possible.
Well, I mean, doesn't Christianity have the same definition of?
No, there is no definitive definition. It doesn't really say what it is. We just assume that it is because that's just the natural, I guess, the natural way of things going. But somebody, I mean, if any of our viewers know where it is written at in the Bible, please feel free to comment. Find us on Facebook, on our fan page, Terrencism on Facebook. And please let us know if there's a place in the Bible where it says definitively what marriage is defined by the Christian doctrine. I would love to hear it, and I'm not being sarcastic. But Islam has defined marriage as being a protection, security, and reproductive process. An agreement, which makes sense why they wouldn't want gay marriage because in their eyes it is not considered marriage because you cannot produce children from this union. And it is judgmental in some senses, but you can't because they have already made it clear what they would consider a marriage, and that's not a marriage.
But of course, one thing that I have to say is that, I mean, even in that case, that means people who can't have children can't get married either. So I mean, that's also an unfortunate.
Right. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, when you go to other places in the world, there are still customs that are held very strong. In this country, having big families and having lots of children isn't a big deal. When you leave this country, having children is a big deal.
Wasn't the Nation of Islam? Wasn't that started here by?
Well, Nation of Islam. I mean, Islamic religion.
Oh,
Excuse
okay,
me,
okay.
Nation of Islam. I'm
'Cause I'm
sorry,
thinking,
guys. I'm
yeah.
sorry. I messed up.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, all right.
Yeah,
So,
but Islam is yeah, they in other countries in this world, they still believe in the old school traditional way where you get married and you have children and you have as many children as possible.
yeah, we don't need that here because we don't have
we don't have
more,
no room.
and we don't need them for,
We don't.
they use them
They use the
for,
children for a lot of other reasons.
yeah,
that we don't,
labor and stuff like
labor.
that we don't have that
We don't
use
have
for.
those problems.
So,
Judaism, more conservative, traditional Jewish followers, they do not accept marriage. But then you have the ones who are more liberal who do. Buddhists, there's no definitive anything for what marriage is supposed to be or not supposed to be, so there is no ban in Buddhism.
but of course, there's also in vitro fertilization if you want to
Yeah.
have children, but you're gay. So I mean, even that really is an excuse to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because.
And then you
Yeah.
have Wiccan. And Wiccan, some Wiccans, surprisingly, I was kind of shocked. Maybe I have the wrong understanding what Wiccan is. And once again, you can comment and let me know if any of you out there are Wiccan. Some do support and some don't. And I was actually kind of shocked because my friends that are Wiccan, they seem to be very liberal and open-minded people who really don't have a problem. So if anybody knows anything about Wiccan, please feel free to inform us of what's going on.
All right. So, what do we have left? Let's speak about.
Where? Oh, where gay marriages are legal.
Right. So, should we continue that in the next part? Or?
Yes, next part.
All right. Stay tuned.